Welcome to the Father Alchemist. This is a show about karma, surrender, and transformation. It doesn't matter what you're struggling with. It could be motivation, money, vices of any kind, drugs, alcohol, porn, shopping, food, your health and fitness, family and kids, spirituality, your business, career, anything mind, body, spirit. The Father Alchemist is a show that will help you transmute and use all that pain to create the gold version of you, the best version of you. We're bringing in some of the top minds to give you a different perspective, to make you think, and most importantly, to help you change from the inside out and the outside in. The goal of the show is to give you support in your journey to becoming the best you in all areas of your life so you can be proud of the individual you are and not held from being the greatest version of yourself. Please follow me at The Father Alchemist on Instagram and follow the show on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. If this show gives you value, a fresh perspective, if it makes you laugh or makes you think differently, please rate the show on your favorite podcast app, share it, like it, and subscribe. Your support means the world to me. Now let's make some magic happen.
A lot of people where I'm from don't make it out. I know that I'm blessed. It's a few L's and millions, so turn that loss to a check.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm probably most excited to have you on just because I know a little bit about your story, but I don't know the whole thing. And as I've gotten to know you, I've come to appreciate you more and more.
Thank you.
And so I guess let's start. Just tell the audience who you are and, who is Vivi?
Who is Vivi? I am a woman.
Yeah, clearly.
I'm a realtor here in Denver, Colorado. I have a very interesting and different background. I lived in a lot of different countries and experienced a lot of different things as I was growing up. So not a typical American, but I'm very pro-American. I am married. I have 2 children. I just became an empty nester. I'm loving it. My husband and I are having a blast. I had my kids young with a total douchebag and ended up getting divorced, and it took me a while, but I found a good guy. And so married, we raised the boys together. And
How long have you been married now?
oh gosh, how long have I been?
We can cut this out if you want.
We've been married. We've been married for 12 years. We're going on our baker's dozen in September.
Good for you.
Yeah, it's been good.
That's huge.
Yeah.
So let's go back a little bit to, you said you moved around a lot as a kid. Is that just from what your parents did for a living? Or tell us more about that.
My father was military. He was high up in the military, kind of. He was a field artilleryman, officer, and I moved 19 times by the time I went to college. I lived in Italy or in Turkey, lived in Germany. I was in Germany when the wall came down, which was a really exciting experience and time.
Were you?
Gosh, it was 89 when the wall came down. So 13? Yeah.
Jeez.
So very, when you go through experiences like that really does impact you and give you a different kind of view, people always be like, well, you're a woman, so you should feel this way. And I'm like, yeah, no. I really don't.
So you traveled, you said 19 different places by the time you went to
college?
I
lived in 19 different places by the time.
Could you pick a favorite?
Colorado.
Yeah?
That's why I'm here.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this was one of the places.
Mm-hmm.
Was there ever a home base?
No.
Never a home base, always traveling.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your dad and your mom.
My dad was an amazing man. We just celebrated his year of passing in February. And he was very pro-America. He really believed in freedom and democracy and people having the ability to make their own choices, and he really fought for that. He was in Vietnam. He was actually people. It's so weird. I'm a snowboarder, and I was on the mountains, and I guess there's some Netflix movie about the soccer team that went down in Chile. My dad was the one.
Yeah.
My dad's the one that found them. So like, yeah, like my dad's just, he's one of those guys, like, I can't believe they haven't written a movie about him. Yeah. My dad was on the Chilean, he was mountain army warfare, and he's the one that hiked in and saved him.
Holy cow.
So, which was really interesting because he was called out. He was with my mom. They were actually like taking a weekend, and he got called in they thought they had found the wreckage, and he comes in, and my mother looks at him, and they just locked eyes, and he came up to her, and he said, "They've been eating." And but what's really interesting, and I haven't watched the movie, what was really interesting was they only ate the pilots, and I think a lot of people don't know that, because they
only ate the pilots.
they only ate the pilots.
Why they only ate the pilots?
Because they're the assholes that wrecked the plane and they were stuck, and people are, I mean, they were a very tight team, and there was children on that plane and everything. I mean, it was literally,
Respect thing.
it was a respect thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so that was my
he
dad.
found them.
He did that. He was the point guard for World War III. He was the one that actually brought down the wall in Germany. I've hung out with Reagan. I've hung out with Colin Powell. I've, like all the big military people, because that was who my dad was.
I think some people growing up in the moment, I think parents are likely kids' heroes. I think once they grow up, sometimes they look back and they don't have that relationship. It just feels like you admire your dad and everything that he did.
Oh, yeah. He was amazing. Yeah, truly amazing. Yeah. He was also the point guard in Vietnam, so he had a knife that came up and it curved around, and he would go before they would do an offensive and basically just take off Vietnam's men's heads. He's killed thousands and thousands of people.
Wow.
By hand.
We need to make a movie about him. There has to be a movie about him.
About my dad. He was but you'd never guess it though, right? Like you'd meet him and he's just lovely.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
What
about your mom?
My mother's very accomplished. She's still alive. She's lives down in Colorado Springs. My mother probably could have been and done anything if she hadn't married my father. She was very intelligent. She graduated college. She got her master's degree. She wanted to go to law school. Her mother told her, "Silly girl, you need to figure out who you're going to marry. You can't go to law school." It's just that time. It's just a different time. And so she actually...
Did she have ambitions of doing that? Or she was happy with the...
No. She worked the whole time. She was not a stay-at-home mom. She actually was Colin Powell's speechwriter, and there's a very famous speech that 5 of our presidents have used that my mother actually wrote. She wrote the 5 points of light. So Reagan wrote that. She wrote that for Colin Powell, but she was a G9 with the military. So once you write something like a speech, the government owns it. So she never got her name in like lights but she was the one that actually wrote the 5 points of light, and we've had 5 of our presidents use it. Yeah.
That's amazing. So are there any takeaways like that you've had from your parents growing up, like big life lessons that maybe you've taken to heart or that you've passed down to your kids?
Yeah, there's a lot. Let's see. I wasn't raised with the television, which I think really made me better, except I'm such a loser at dinner parties. Like, people are talking about, like, gosh, just last night, Leave It to Beaver?
Leave It to Beaver.
I'd never heard of it. I don't even know what they were talking about. So like, there's just like times I'm just like, I really, I'm like, I wasn't in America. I don't know what you're talking about. Everybody's like, have you seen the Barbie movie? I'm like, no. And I really don't have any desire to. Like, so.
That's literally Sully.
Yeah.
That's Sully. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause she didn't live in America.
She grew up in Chile. And she's like, our backyard was the fucking mountains.
Oh yeah.
Like that's the shit we did.
Yep.
And then she came to America and it was a whole new, experience. And
Totally.
never grew up with a TV. I'm the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Like
Same with my husband.
with
I
Marty.
watch a lot of TV.
So like my dad would take me and my brother every Friday night, Burbank, California. We'd go to the AMC movie theater.
Oh, wow.
But back then, this is when movies were like,
It's a big deal.
oh yeah, like people weren't watching movies at home yet. So everybody would go to the Friday night release, and there were like lines wrapped around the corner to get into the movie, and the movies were fucking packed, and people eating food and popcorn, but there was an energy to it that was like. That was awesome. Yeah. You know what I mean? But, so like with Soli, I'm like, have you seen this movie? And she's like, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah. But that's neat that's a perspective, I think, to have.
It's give you a different perspective. And I think when you get to travel, the more, I encourage everybody to travel more, because the more you travel, the more your mind expands, and there's so much control in America. I feel like I understand why people love social media, but you're being fed lies all the time. And so if you can unplug and step back a little bit and really just use your noggin to go, why are people saying this? Why are people, and now with AI, there's just a lot of lies out there, and people are creating their own message for their own purposes, and it's just something I really hope people will recognize. And I think the reason why we have the same two old white men to vote for this year is because of our media. You have to be a complete narcissist to want to run for president. It's all they do is tear everybody apart. Anybody good, they just. It's actually why Colin Powell dipped out, when he was running for president, because they started going after his daughter, who has had some addiction issues. And so he was like, not going there. So he pieced out. But, we're never going to have good quality people to vote for unless we start telling the media, they need to stop. So.
I think it's led to... this is where the whole fake news thing kind of comes from. I think there's so much information out there that it's like, it's just hard for, at least for me, right? It's like, I was reading an article the other day on greens, because I'm like, I should probably be taking more greens. But there's fucking 20 products out there that exist. And I'm like, I don't know which ones. It's like, you want the best, but you don't want to necessarily pay the highest price. So is there one that's just as good, that's not as expensive? And so I'm researching this. I read this article about it, and I get to the end of the article, and it dawns on me that, like, here's an author that, like, I don't know, like, she's probably making money from it, because at the end it's like, click on this product to go buy it. And so I'm like, fuck, I can't trust anything that's out there. And it's such a mechanism of control. And so now for me, it's like, okay, doesn't matter what I hear, what's the other side to it? Because there's always another side to it. And where is this really coming from? And is there some ulterior motive that I should be aware of? And I think those are questions everybody needs to ask themselves when it comes to social or news.
Any of it.
And this is why I believe everything, like news, the traditional news won't exist like it did, when I was growing up.
Shit did that, man. Like,
there's a nostalgic part. Yeah. I know. Well,
opinions, that would be awesome.
I think good journalism will exist, but like, look at, I'm just going to use Tucker Carlson as an example, but he gets fired from Fox and starts a YouTube channel. He's making way more fucking money on YouTube, but that's what I think will happen. I think everything's going to go to YouTube, and I think the everyday person is going to find the personality that they know, like, and trust.
Right.
And they're going to follow that person, and the news will kind of be out so that they feel like they're getting accurate information.
That's dangerous.
It is. Yeah.
That's dangerous. So.
Yeah. I know. It's interesting just kind of what's happened. And sometimes I'm like, am I just more aware of it now? And we're talking about politics, mass shootings, right? Like, they don't have the same issues in European countries that they do here with shootings. And so it's like, what is the root to all of it?
What?
Know. Well, you could share your answer. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that there's been a very small section of people that have run the world for a very long time. I think they have very specific things they want to do. I'm reading a really interesting book right now. It's called The Creature from Jekyll Island. Jekyll Island is where the Federal Reserve was actually created for people to start understanding actually how the Federal Reserve and how the world was made. And by these few people, Rothschild, Morgan, JP Morgan. Like, if you don't know the history, read the book. Because
What's it called again?
The Creature from Jekyll Island.
Creature from Jekyll Island.
And it's our Federal Reserve.
Look, you need to start a book list, right? like even I was texting you the other night. I'm like, what are the 5 books you make every employee read? And because with the 75 hard thing, I'm like, what's up next?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a habit I'll ever stop. Because like when you're reading 10 pages a day, it's like it's manageable. But holy shit, like you're through a whole fucking book in a few weeks.
Yeah. Audible's amazing because, like if you're in your car a lot, like
Sure.
I have this adorable client, Rebecca, and she's like, I put 3,000 miles on my car last year. And I'm like, that's what I put on in a week. So I always have 5 hard copy books. It's next to my bedside, and I always have an Audibles. But I'm able to read 50 books a year on Audible just because I'm in my car so much. Yeah. So, in between houses, I'm like, I'm not listening to music. I'm learning.
I just feel like every time I talk to you, there's a great book that you're reading. And I'm like, I'm like, oh, I'm reading that too. Or like, shit, I got to put that on my list,
Yeah. So we'll cut off a book. Like I'll start a book and go.
I know. That was a habit of mine forever. Like it's funny because Sol is like, man, you read so much. I've literally got a fucking bookshelf that's all from ceiling to floor.
Yeah.
And I'm like, kind of. Like
it looks good.
It looks good, but I haven't finished them all. But then there's some books like The Magic of Thinking Big where I'm just like, this is every fucking sentence was like gold to me in that. Same thing with The Real Dr. Fauci, right? It was
man.
Oh my God, this is fucking eye-opening.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable what a piece of shit that guy is.
Yep.
Anyway.
Painful.
So I've come to know you through real estate, but what were you doing prior to real estate, and what was the impetus that led to that transition? Because now you run an amazing team. You're one of the top producers in the country. You've got, like not everybody buys their own building, right? Like these are all amazing things that you've done, but what caused that?
So, I was a civil engineer student at University of Texas. It was my junior year. I needed an internship. And my parents got me an internship with a builder in Colorado Springs, John Raptis. And he was building out Somerset. He had sold 12 homes in 2.5 years. I spent 2 months in the summer with him. I sold 13 in 2 months. He got on his hands and knees and was like, what do I have to do for you to stay? I need you to stay and finish out this development. So he ended up paying for my schooling, and I went to school at night at University of Colorado in the Springs. I finished my degree, and that's kind of what got me into it. My mother was actually a big real estate agent down back in the 90s, and she really wanted me to join her. And I had...
In the Springs?
And I love my mother, but I do not want to be employed by my mother. So I end up marrying douchebag, and they really wanted somebody from the family to come in to help with the business. So he sort of joined up with them, and I ended up running Homes Illustrated, which was a printed free real estate magazine. You can still find it actually up in the mountains, Mountain Homes Illustrated. But I ran that for Colorado Springs, and then I started running Denver, and then I started running Fort Collins. And I ran those, and it was great because I was able to have my 2 boys. It gave me flexibility, a lot more flexibility than you have in real estate. Gave us health insurance. And I always had my finger in real estate. I bought my first place when I was 19. Always really into the economy. But I did that, and then, it rolled around. It's 2009, and the market's terrible. I had called everyone I knew in January of 2007 and told them that the market was going to crash, real estate was going to crash, and which was 6 months before the Wolves of Wall Street. And so
How did you know that? What was it that led you to that understanding?
I obviously read a lot, and you can tell with payroll. There's 7 different things I actually monitor to see what's going to happen, and I think everybody thought, interest rates are going to go up, housing prices, I'm going to wait till housing prices come down. Yeah. Dude, understand our fiat money. Understand that the government, when they want to give Ukraine $6 billion, they're just printing it. And so, the reason why 2008, 2009, 2010, when all of that happened, it was this inflation that was created by mortgage lenders that weren't being scrupulous and, were just, they were just hedging and hedging and hedging. And so you can always tell by supply how many homes are on the market, how many homes are getting built. I mean, in Colorado, our government is so messed up. Our permit, I'll have people go, I can't buy that house. It wasn't permitted. I'm like, dude, if that house was permitted when they remodeled it, it would have been it would have taken 2 years to get it done. And it would be 3 times as expensive because that's the problem with our government. And so, we're not building enough houses. I mean, shoot, we just have 40,000 Venezuelans just come here. I mean, our housing is a major crisis, and you are just going to see rent continue to go up. You're going to see taxes continue to go up. You're going to see insurance continue to go up because the coasts are a mess. I mean, I was just reading CNBC this morning, Atlantic coastline. I mean, everybody's talking about California. Dude, Atlantic coastline's in trouble, big trouble. It's sinking. And so, when you look at Colorado, we're in a high elevation, middle of a country. We actually have water. I mean, all these people moving down to Arizona. I'm like,
we're selling water to California.
Well, that was 1820. So we made deals. California gets 30% of our water. 30%. Arizona gets 20% of our water. We get to maintain 50% of our water. And that was something that was done in the early 1800s. And a deal that was made, which was unfortunate because in the last 20 years, we've been in a drought, which that's ended, which is good. Because it was hard, government was saying you can only water your lawns once a week, et cetera. But yeah, that's our water.
Do you think that was real? Or do you think there was some underlying control component to that?
Oh, I think everything has an underlying control. Yeah. And, it's interesting too, reading The Creature from Jekyll Isle. I mean, they literally talk about, basically there's 8 families that literally run the world, and they still do. And so, what do you do about that? Well, you can be like Elon Musk and come over here and, just create, amazing technology and really, use your brain. And, and also I think what you have to do is you have to don't stress too much about it, but man, get the piece of your pie. Mm-hmm. When I talk to people and they're like, I'm just going to keep running. I'm like, gosh, think about it. You get up, you work for the man takes your money. They give you a stipend back. Then you're paying some other man to live. How are you going to start building for yourself? I mean, over 90% of millionaires in America made their millions through real estate. And so it's one of those things and that's why I love doing real estate. I love helping people make good financial decisions.
Yeah. Well, you're obviously great at it.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. But I want to go back to something for a second because I think you hit on a big point. You were 19 and you bought a house.
Yep. A condo, actually, 1351 Washington Street, unit number 21 in Denver, Colorado, Cap Hill. That was my first place.
How much would it be worth today if you held on to it?
Well, I did hold on to it. So I bought that for $60,000 when I was 19. I sold it in 2016 for $220,000. I 1031 exchanged that into a half duplex in Silverthorne, which I was only using 3 nights a month. But I didn't feel like I could Airbnb it out because I had all my stuff there. And then Marty pushed me in 2019 to buy a bigger house so we could actually have locker closets and actually Airbnb it out. So we closed February of 2019. Yeah, February 2019, and Airbnb shuts down because of COVID.
Jesus.
So I was sitting there going, oh no. I was like, well, we better make this house better. So like we painted it and we like, did a bunch of stuff, but it's been great. I was able to actually see the monetary value of it. And, that little $60,000 condo is now a $2 million house in Breckenridge that nets us $100,000 a year in cash flow. Yeah.
That's huge. And I think, like, when you look at the time horizon and you look at interest rates over that period of time, they were up, they were down, they were up, they were down.
Oh, yeah.
And yet you still made all this money. Why do you think people are so hung up on rate? I have my ideas, and I think I know what you're going to say, but I want to hear.
Well, we had really stupid low rates for so long. It's like, what do people get used to? Mm-hmm. So when I bought my condo, I paid 7.25% interest rate in the 90s. Of course, the condo was only $60,000, but at the same time, I was only making $30,000 a year. Mm-hmm. So,
right.
it's all relative.
It's all relative. Sure.
I mean, shoot, my maid makes more than $30,000 a year. So, I mean, it's just hard.
It's like, I've said this before, but it's like, I never have heard anybody say like, gosh, like I wish I never bought that house. I wish I were still renting.
Yeah,
right?
no.
Like nobody ever fucking says that. But,
no.
but like what you do hear all the time is like the neighbor who's, 70, 80 years old. That's like, I bought one back in whatever date. I wish I would have bought 10.
Yeah.
It's always like, I wish I would have bought 10.
Also, like I have a real heart for personal representative deeds and people who are elderly because I feel like they get taken advantage of a lot by investors. And, the tax bill, people need to understand that the way our taxes are created, they're actually created to help you if you're willing to learn how to use them. So for me, I moved every 2 years because as a single person, as a single mother of two, we would buy a house, we would rip everything out, and then we'd live there for 2 years, make it all pretty, and then we'd sell it, and I could make $250,000 tax-free. And I did that I did that over and over and over again. Now that I'm married, we're allowed to make $500,000. So, and we make $500,000 on the sale of our primary home. We move every 5 years. Yeah.
That's what Soledad's uncle did. She grew up with her uncle, and he was the vice president at Galpin Ford, which is the largest Ford dealership in the world. Oh, cool. So I used to work there. That's how I ultimately met my wife. I was 19 years old. I was selling cars. They had 4,500. I don't know what it is today, but 4,500 Fords on their lot.
Wow.
So you have a customer come in that's like, I want to buy a Mustang. Well, let me show you fucking, 1,000 of them and different colors and and they were big on the sales guys had to walk you through the entire process, never shortchanging the process. And right. I think, sometimes even in our industry, it's easy to shortchange or to pre-qualify somebody. And I think it's unfortunate, right? Because it lends a bad name to real estate agents, to lenders. And I think when you treat everyone with dignity, and you give them the ability to understand 100% of the process, you've got a client for life.
Yeah.
And that's a lesson I learned a long time ago. I'm trying to get Tony on the show. So we'll see if he comes. He's getting up there. But yeah, interesting, man. So tell us about, real estate. When did you enter it? When did you enter the real estate game? And
I got into it twice. So when I was 19, when I worked for the builder, and then I let my license end up lapsing after I wasn't willing to join my parents in their real estate. And so, and then I re-upped my license in August of 2009.
2009.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great time.
Yeah. Similar to mine. I was in it, didn't know what I was doing. I was young. Market crashed. I lost everything. Literally everything. I had a $100,000 car, let's say, and the tow truck came and took it.
Wow.
I was walking everywhere and living in a $2 million house.
That's crazy.
And then I did cash for keys. I had to turn over the house.
Yeah.
My bank account got drained, and talk about and I think a lot of people now are confused and scared, and they don't realize that sometimes those lessons, those experiences is what makes you into a more unbreakable person, right? It teaches you lessons if you let it teach you the lesson. But in the moment, it's fucking tough, man. In the moment, you have no idea what you're going to do. You're scared. You're depressed. You have fear. But then ultimately, you come out of it as long as you stay the course. You come out of it. And I think for me, it was like looking back and seeing what I did wrong and what I could have done different. And also like instilling that confidence within me that like I can fucking get through anything. And so I'm always curious what other people think, like when it comes to having the hustle, or like, is that something that you think is taught, or do you think somebody's born with it?
Both. I think they're sheep, and I think they're non-sheep. And I think if you're a non-sheep and I don't even think you had to be raised right, man. I know amazing people that had loser parents, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my parents weren't around and we had no money. I just had really great experiences because I got to live in all these crazy countries, but my dad was gone 80% of the time in the field. So I would say you're born with it. And, really, we're all born with it. I think every single one of us are born with it. I think people don't realize how strong they are. I don't think they understand how much power they have. And, if people would just turn off their televisions and actually start reading some books and start understanding the power of energy, your soul, there is so much out there and so much information. But I think every single person can be the president of America. I think every single person can be the wealthiest. I think it's really easy actually to choose to ruin your life, to choose to do heroin or meth and go down this spiral of a circle, because you're basically feeding the negativity. And if you focus on the light and focus on your strength, I think you could do anything,
I 100% agree. I think everybody has it in them. I think it's, but how does somebody that's in that place where they're depressed, maybe they're at a job where they fucking hate it, and it's like
get your resume out there. If you hate your job, you start reaching out to people. I mean, life is too short to hate what you do. I love what I do. That's why I do it. I love it. Like it warms my heart to know that I'm helping people make good decisions. Oh. And so if you don't love your job, you need to find a job you love.
Yeah, I totally agree. But what about the person that can't even do that? Like they're in that place where it's just fucking dark, but they know deep inside, like there's something still burning, right? But that light is fucking dim as fuck. And they're just like, man, like they might not even have the ability to go get their resume out there, right? And we know that the reality is it's not necessarily about the money, right? A lot of people think it might be. They're making $100,000 a year and they go, fuck, if I can make $250,000, but then they make $250,000 or they make $500,000 or they make seven figures, and it's still them fucked up, right? And so how does somebody get out of that?
I'm so crass. I would say pull your head out of your ass, get up at 5 a.m., go for a run, exercise, sit down, meditate, see your day, take a shower, dress for success, and go out there and change your life. Anybody can do it, but it's your pattern, and it's what you decide. I mean, we all decide our own fate. It's not... JP Morgan and the Rothschilds are not deciding my fate. I'm deciding my fate. I decide if I want to get up in the morning. I decide what I'm going to do. And I'm either going to do something positive and I'm going to treat my body like the temple that it is, or I'm going to ruin it.
Mm-hmm. There's two things I kind of want to unpack there. So one of them is, I think you're right. Everybody has the answer within them. They already know what they need to do. So the problem isn't necessarily knowing, like when you were talking about turn off your TV. So I was the guy that for the last I mean, probably a year and a half. Like I was just consuming content. Now, you know, I was justifying my own bullshit by saying, well, it's to be a better leader, to learn more about sales, to, you know, be better with my team and my business and grow a business. And that was why. But then I heard a buddy of mine is in a coaching group, and David Goggins shows up to the coaching group, and everyone's talking about, like, you know, who do you follow, or like, who, you know, hey, have you heard this guy's podcast? And everyone's kind of having this conversation before. Arate is the name of the group, so it's Ed Milet, Andy Frisella. Before they show up, everyone's kind of chit-chatting, and then they're like, David, what about you? And he's like, I listen to my fucking self.
Yep.
And I remember when my buddy was telling me the story, I thought to myself, I kind of laughed about it. But then after I hung up the phone with him, I'm like, it's what I needed to hear right in that moment. Because I was aware that I was like consuming this content. And we kind of talked about it before the show. Like I just knew I had to rip the fucking Band-Aid off and now do something about it. But I think there's something to be said about that. Like when you have the ability to really quiet yourself, take some time to yourself. Like for me, that's, you know, communing with nature. It's walking outside. It's going to the gym. It's whatever I'm doing, but it's a physical thing for me. I'm not saying that's for everybody, but for me, it's physical. And then I feel better. And then I start to think differently, and I connect with God, really is what it is for me. It's like I can connect with God, and I get that feedback, that divine feedback that tells me what I need to do. Then it's like, okay, I heard it, my gut, you know, or your intuition, everybody has that. And I think that little voice in our head that's telling us you should do this, you should do this. I mean, that's fucking God talking to us saying you should fucking do it. And if every man, every woman chose to listen to that, that's all we really need.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us about a time where things were not going well for you. Something where, and it doesn't have to be, you know, it could be anything you want it to be, but where it wasn't going well, you were kind of in a dark place, you were distraught, you were sad maybe, whatever. It could mean whatever it wants to you, but tell us about a time like that.
The biggest one is 2009. It was 2009. I broke my leg. I was running.
Oh, that's
right. It was evening.
Oh, you told me about that.
And I broke my leg. It took them a while for them to find me. And
Wait,
it was...
You broke it where? Running?
Running. I hit black ice. It was wintertime. It was bad.
Oh, my God.
And so I finally get dragged back to my parents' house. My sister's there. We don't speak. She says she's an only child, which is hysterical. Anyway, she's at my parents' house, and I have a broken leg. And she basically looks at me, grabs my arms, and says, Vivi, these people aren't going to help you. And she leaves. And I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting there. My mother's making me Jack and Coke. Oh, this will help. You'll be okay. I slip into shock. My dad's like, all right, I'm going to take you to the hospital. We go to the ER. I'm all calm. They're having all these people go in front of me. 2 hours later, they see me. The doctors freak out. Oh my gosh, we had no idea. You broke your leg. And I'm just like, yeah, that's why I'm here. Like, Jesus. Why wouldn't I be here? And so, but I'm a single mom, 2 little boys. And I had done a rent to own because I wasn't sure about the area or about living. It was an old convent that they had converted into 4 condos. And I had done a rent to own on the top floor. It was a 3-bed, 2-bath. Really loved it. 89 stairs to get to my front door, no elevator, and I broke my leg with 2 little boys. Oh, and so my dark spot was I'm 3 weeks in. We're living in this rental, and I don't have any food, and I don't know how to get I really need help. And I ended up calling my girlfriend Kedra down in Colorado Springs. She was one of my only friends that I had left because my ex-husband slept with all my other friends. And I basically canceled everybody I knew. And so Kedra was one of my only friends. And this is actually how I met Marty, because I ended up going, gosh, my only friend is down in Colorado Springs. She had to come up to help me go to the grocery store. I've got to start meeting some people. And so with my broken leg, I got on Meetup. and I put in, I'm a rad snowboarder. I love to read. I'm a runner. All these things, and ended up going to a wine tasting, my first wine tasting at Meetup, and that's where I met Marty.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So you talk about X and what a douchebag he was. Like, I think a lot of men out there are super confused right now. I think they're...
I feel bad for dudes right now. I am like so pissed at like people beating up like the white man and everything. I'm just like, are you serious? Yeah. We are Americans. I do not care. I do not care what your sex is. I do not care what your color is. I do not care what you do in your bedroom as long as you're not hurting anybody else. But we are Americans. And I'm so tired of people just beating up like certain classes and races of people. It's not right. We need to support one another.
I'm glad you're talking about that. And I couldn't agree more with it. And I think that a lot of that is, I don't know for sure, but it feels like a lot of that was born out of politics. When Trump was running in 2016,
but that was all social media bullshit, man. Yeah. Another really great book, Black, Red, and White. It is all African American PhD writers. And it is so eye-opening. I mean, the stats in it are unbelievable. Like, if you take 1950s, if you take the Black community of Americans, 97% of women that had a child, those children were born in wedlock. Now it's like under 20%. And it's because Americans and our politics sat there and said, oh no, this class of people, we need to do more. They have not been treated right. And what we've done is we have eroded their community. We have eroded their children. We have, instead of going, we are one, we are together, we all would have gotten so much better. And instead, we've literally torn that entire class of people by telling them they're not as good, by telling them their history is bad, by telling them, like, we have created the story for them. And it's awful.
It's awful.
I mean, like, I truly could care less what color you are. No. I just don't care. Like, if you're pro-America, like, I'm on board.
Me too.
So, it's...
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
What do you think makes a man?
I think God made you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like biologically.
Biologically, yeah.
Spiritually, but what makes a man? Like, somebody that you respect, somebody that you're like, okay, that's a dude that... Because I think a lot of guys are wanting to be that. They've forgotten who they are.
Yeah. Time magazine back in 2010, it was front page of December, The End of Man. And it's literally how, as a woman, I mean, and I'm very pro women. I want women to do well. I'd love to see a female president. I think women we're just built a little differently. We're able to do more things. I mean, one of my favorite stories, Brighton story of Marty. Those are my two boys, my husband. They're sitting there, all three of them. Mom, we're out of milk. And all three of them are standing there in front with the fridge open. And I literally like scooched the half and half over just by half. And then all three of them are like, oh. And it's just like, dude, I mean, you've got to like pay attention. But this whole concept of, we have to beat men up in order for women to be strong is silly. I hate that. Women will just be stronger. The stronger men are, the stronger women are going to be. Like, we need to be strong together. We're a community. We're a family.
And like, if you're a chick, like, why aren't dudes coming up and hitting on me? It's like, a lot of times they created the problem.
100%. Right? I mean, if I were a guy, I'd be afraid to hit on a woman because all of a sudden then you're, the
Me Too movement.
Oh
and my gosh. Now you're afraid of getting shamed. You're afraid of being canceled. You're afraid of being humiliated. Like, you're going to be told on, and it's just fucking bullshit. And I think women need to, women are the ones, in my opinion, that need to fucking change that.
Yeah.
Women need to change it, because if women aren't willing to stand up and allow for... No, I'm not saying... Listen, like, if a guy is inappropriate, like, I get it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But, like, the over-the-top, like, complaining about dudes being sexual, I mean, that shit is just biology.
Yeah,
like,
we're all sexual.
Yeah,
come on, get over it.
I know. I totally agree.
It was so funny. It was just a couple weeks ago. I had shown a property that was just awful. And so my buyer was like, yeah, this is too much work. But my investor, I called and I was like, you need to come check this triplex out. And he's like, I can be there in 45 minutes. So I was like, Mexican restaurant. So I like go, it's lunchtime. I go sit by myself. And this little old Hispanic guy comes up. I'm sure he was the owner. And he's just like, his eyes are big. And like, he brings me my water. And then he brings me my lunch. And he just he grazes my finger. It was so cute and sweet and everything. And I was like, but some other person would be like, and it's awful. Like, we need to change that, man. Americans, we just need to change. We need to be better. Yeah.
So we're coming up on time here shortly, but I think I want to kind of end by talking a little bit about one thing is real estate, like what you think agents could do a better job of, what you think makes an amazing agent, and like, are there any problems with Denver real estate with regards to the people out there that are doing business and yeah.
I think the problem with real estate is there's a really low bar to entry.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a problem because what ends up happening is everybody thinks, I'm going to get my real estate license and I'm going to be awesome and I'm just going to make all this money because, man, if you have any clue how much money flies out the door, I mean, I am so in the red this year, it's not even funny. And so, when people are like, I'm going to get my license, like, okay, what's your background and why? The reason why realtors aren't good is because they aren't trained well. They think all they have to do is get their license and then they're ready to go. Dude, you need a mentor and you need a good mentor. Do you want somebody who, if you had to have heart surgery, are you going to go to the doctor who's done 2? Or are you going to go to the doctor who's done thousands? And that's the difference. This morning, I actually got an email from someone who had interviewed me and is going through a divorce and knew I was good, ended up listing with some discount agent who was basically doing it for free. He reached out and he was like, it's not going well. And I'm like, shocker. Like, the house needs to be cleaned. The house needs staging. The house needs some mechanical information. Like, what did you do to the house? You were in construction. There's a carriage house to it. Let's talk about the Airbnb profit. I mean, like, there's all this stuff you can do because, at the end of the day, regardless of what you think, we all want to be sold. We want to be guided and we want to be sold. We want to know why we're going to buy the property. And this agent has done nothing to do any of that. And they're finally realizing, oh, my house isn't selling. I guess I need a better agent. And we're like, yeah.
They just wasted a bunch of money and time.
Yep, they sure did. Yeah. And I hate it because I always end up getting it the second time around and everybody thinks something's wrong with it. I'm like, no, they just had a terrible agent. This fine.
I have this debate with my wife all the time. There's a difference between price and cost.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I understand the idea of being frugal, but I don't think God made us to be cheap. I think we're in an abundant universe. I think that there's more where that came from. And I think that the idea of like, well, I'm going to buy this because it's less expensive makes sense. But the reality is they're going to end up buying 4 of those.
Right.
If we're talking about shoes, they're going to buy 4 pairs of shoes because they're going to fucking fall apart and you're going to have to get a new pair.
Yep.
Just get the phenomenal pair of shoes that you really want, and then it's going to last you forever and you're going to end up saving more money.
Agreed.
And I think it's the same way with real estate. And I think with real estate, with any business, I think it's become popular. It's become popular to be an entrepreneur. And let's face it, real estate, you're an entrepreneur. You're running a business. And I think it's become popular to be that. But I think what people also need to understand is that it's fucking hard and it's not for everybody. And there are times where, look at the attrition rate, right?
Yeah.
Like the statistics on, again, any business is that you're likely to fail. And so before making the decision to get into it, just be prepared. Know what you're up against. Know what is likely to happen. And are you the type of individual that's going to say, fuck it, I'm going to do whatever the fuck it takes because my purpose is so great, or because my pain is so great and that's what's driving me? Or are you somebody that's just in it because you want to make more money?
Right.
And I think now, and I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to make more money or having the nice things, because, you know, you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there is a component to that, or that's important. But then once you have it, you realize that it's not about that, it's about the purpose. So
Right.
you got to start with what is driving you and the purpose, and realize that it's going to be fucking hard. Don't do it if you're not willing to sustain that challenge, because it's every day. It's people telling you can't do it, you're not good enough. It's playing on your ego. It's playing on whether you're worthy enough. You know, your self-confidence goes up and down, right? You got a listing appointment, then you lost it. You got the sale, you didn't get the sale, and confidence is constantly fluctuating. And like, if you got thin skin, don't even fucking do it, because you're making a bad name for the good ones.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dude, I fucking love you. Like, thanks for coming on the show. This was fucking awesome, and I always appreciate your perspective. It's like, it's awesome to just talk to you, and I hope you come back.
Turn that loss to a check. Every time that I see a limit, what? I push right past it. Don't care if you got here first, the one to win is the last one standing. Say my life is like luck, nah.